Welcome back, everyone. Today's deck profile is going to be a pretty interesting one. This is going to be for Momo Yaoyorozu III. And this came about when I was helping one of my locals build a deck. He had built a Momo deck that he was testing, and he struggled with getting his attacks. He was saying, I'm building real well, but I'm only getting like 1 or 2 attacks per turn. So he asked me to take a look at the deck, and as I was looking through the deck, a nagging thought started burrowing its way through my mind, and that thought was, you know what would make these attacks better? Less of them. And I couldn't tell you exactly why I thought this deck might work, which is why this is going to be put in the Bad Ideas Good Times folder. But I designed him a deck with only 3 attacks. 4 of each, of course, but 3 attacks. That'd be Net Launcher, Cannon Blast, and Spirit Sword Ultimate. And it works. Shockingly, he had me play this deck against one of his other decks he was testing, and I was able to throw 30 plus damage on any given attack turn by only having 2 attacks in hand. This deck is insane. So let's get into it. Momo Yaoyorozu III is a 6 hand size 28 health character. She's got 1A in Student as her character traits. Her symbols are Earth, Good, and Life. We have chosen the Good symbol for this deck. She has a first form, so after you draw your hand, at the start of your turn, after you draw up to your 6 cards in hand, the first thing you want to do is commit 1 foundation, to choose 1 non-unique foundation in your discard pile, and if there are no copies of that card in your stage, you get to build it. This is a really good example of a great going second character, because when you would have to commit a foundation as a cost, you are allowed to commit your character. So a good strategy is to, going second, review a foundation. That way you can draw up to your 6 and then draw your extra card for going second. So you start with 7 cards in your hand. Then you use your first form to commit Momo and build that foundation you reviewed into your stage, giving you 1 extra foundation built during your first turn. It's a really solid strategy. And then she has an Enhance, choose 1 rival foundation. This attack gets +1 or -1 speed for each copy of that foundation in their stage. So Momo's going to be providing a little bit of speed boost and speed reduction just on her face, depending on how your rival builds. Now, let's get into the attacks of this deck. We're going to start with Net Launcher. This is a 5 difficulty, 3 control, 4 mid for 5 with a +1 mid block. It's got Charge and Weapon. It has 2 enhances, the first of which says commit 3 face-up foundations that do not share a name. This attack gets +3 speed, +6 damage, and stun 2. So it becomes a 7 mid for 11 with stun 2. Those are insane stats. And when we get into the foundation base, you'll see why this is not very high of a cost of committing 3 different face-up foundations. It also has an Enhance, spend 1 momentum, build 1 foundation from your discard pile, choose 1 foundation in your rival's discard pile, they build the chosen foundation. So this is a great way to get more speed out of your character. So this is a 7 mid for 11 with stun 2, so you get to commit 2 of your rival's foundations. And on top of that 7 speed, if your rival has, say, 2 copies of a foundation in play, you get to give it an additional 2 speed, so it's a 9 mid 11. 9 mid 11 on your poke attack, your one-shot attack, is really devastating, especially when you can force them to commit 2 foundations. If your rival's at, 8 foundations, they commit 2, they have 6 up, you're a 9 speed maybe. Let's say 9 speed just for fun. 9 speed, if they block with a, +1 mid block, that's a 10 speed, they check a 5, they have to commit 5 of their 6 foundations. The math checks out that this is a very devastating card that almost always wants to be your opener. Same could be said of Cannon Blast, our next attack. It is a 5 difficulty, 4 high for 5. It's got Charge, Ranged, and Weapon. It says Enhance, commit 1 foundation. This attack gets +1 speed and +2 damage. Its second Enhance says you can commit 2 foundations. This attack gets +2 speed and +4 damage. So, whereas this is a 4 mid for 5, that becomes a 7 mid 11 with stun 2. This becomes a 7 high for 11 It doesn't get stun too, but you are allowed to commit face-down foundations for it. You don't have to just commit different face-up foundations. If you have face-downs, you can commit all of those, and you get this 7 high 11. So again, with some speed from Momo, 1 or 2 speed, maybe even 3 if your rival just played a whole bunch of 1 spam foundation, that can push a lot of strong damage right through. But the strongest attack in the deck is Spirit Sword Ultimate. This is another 5 difficulty, 4 high for 5. It's got EX2 and Weapon, so EX2 allows us to spend momentum, and for each momentum we spend, we get +2 speed. Also, it has a response, discard 1 card. After your rival plays an ability on their character, cancel it. So any of these defensive characters that can give minus speed, minus damage, we can negate those by discarding a card from our hand. And it has an enhance, commit 1 foundation. This attack is +2 damage. This enhance is played any number of times during this enhance step. So we can open with a cannon blast or a net launcher, threaten these 11 damage moves, force our rival to commit out, and then send our entire board into a Spirit Sword Ultimate for 1 big kill swing. So that's kind of the goal of the deck. Open with a net launcher and then kill with Spirit Sword Ultimate, or open with a cannon blast, kill with a Spirit Sword Ultimate. That is the goal. Onto our assets, we have Airy, because this allows us to ready a foundation at the start of our end phase, so that we go into our rival's turn with more resources ready. And as a response, we can remove Airy, spend a momentum before the damage step of our rival's attack, reduce that damage to our current health -1, so their lethal attack will always leave us at 1 health. Then we have Team Dr. Ichigaki. This is a response on an asset, remove. After a non-keyword ability is played on a non-character card, cancel it. So cancel Barrier Shield, reducing our speed to 0. Cancel Referee Jury, which is a card that I've grown to hate over the past weekend. We could cancel any speed resets, damage resets, any asset like Cape of No Return. This is the way we protect our bomb attacks. This is how we protect, well, any of our attacks, because all of our attacks are pretty bomby. Then onto our actions, we have Referee Jury. If you can't beat him, join him. As an enhance, we can play this action to change this attack's damage to 4. So if our rival has like an Armor of the Wolf or something and they've bumped it up to 1 billion damage, we can change it to 4, and then if that attack deals damage, we get to draw a card. And then as a response, while this card's in our card pool, we can flip Referee Jury and commit 1 foundation. After our rival plays an enhance ability, they have to commit a foundation. So this is more committing cards on our rival's turn so that our 11 damage plus attacks can get through easier on our turn. And then we have Airy Smiles. We can, as a response, flip a foundation. After we block with Airy Smiles, our rival has to play a non-attack card as their next form or end their turn. That's what the pass means here. So either play a foundation after I've blocked with this, or end your turn. So this forces our rival to play with extra progressive difficulty and allows us, hopefully, to survive a turn we might not otherwise survive. We can also remove an Airy Smiles as an enhance to add 1 foundation from our stage to the top of our deck, if we need to guarantee that check in a pinch. And now onto our foundations. You'll notice the foundation counts are a little wonky, because Momo wants us to build non-unique foundations that we don't already have in our stage. However, we have 4 copies of 2 different foundations, those being Study Group Leader and Defiant Stance. And these pretty much do the same thing. For Study Group Leader, it's an ally foundation. It says as a response we can flip it. After the second or greater copy of an attack is played this turn, it loses 1 keyword ability of our choice. We don't need to worry about that. But the Yaoyorozu response, once per turn, after we commit this card to pay the cost of an ability, we get to ready it. So if we commit it for Momo's first form, if we commit it for any of our 3 attacks, the commit 3, the commit 1 or commit 2, or Spirit Sword's commit, we get to ready it. Therefore treating Study Group Leader as 2 foundations during any given turn. If we have to commit it for Referee Jury, for the response on Referee Jury, we get to ready it again. And Defiant Stance has the same ability, Tenacious once per turn. After you commit this card to pay a cost, ready it. So these 2 foundations, 4 copies each, we want to see these in our stage. We want as many of these as we can because they double themselves if we're committing them for our costs. So, Net Launcher, Cannon Blast, Spirit Sword. Imagine having Study Group Leader, Defiant Stance, and another face-up card. We commit 3 with Net Launcher. We ready 2 of them. So for the cost of 1 foundation, we throw in a 7 mid 11 stun 2. That's pretty good. And then we have the Defiant Stance, which can ready itself, which works with the Cannon Blast, Spirit Sword Ultimate. So if we have each of these is 4 damage on any given Spirit Sword Ultimate. On just the 1 foundation, 4 damage. That's a pretty good return rate. Then we have our Steadfast Resolve. This is a way to keep us out of deadlock and to get a little bit more damage reduction if need be, or to destroy committed foundations to get a little bit more damage bonus on the final attack that we're pushing through. So response, destroy a foundation. After an attack is played, it gets +1 or -1 damage. This is a great way to reuse your flip effects. You flip a card as a cost, then you destroy it, and then you build it back in with Momo on your next turn. So that's a great way to recycle some of your defensive abilities, which we'll see a little bit further down the list. Although one of those flip abilities is curious about quirks. Response, flip. After your rival plays an ability on their character, draw 1 card. This is just amazing, because we can flip it, because everyone's going to use their character, always. Flip to draw, blow it up with Steadfast Resolve, bring it back in with Momo. They play their character ability, flip, draw a card. It's just constant recycled draw. Then we have Borrowed Energy. This is a good way to snap some momentum for Spirit Sword Ultimate or Airy, or anything that we would need like that, because we can flip it. If our rival has 1 or more momentum, we add the top card of our deck to our momentum. Or if we don't need the momentum as to fuel our costs, we can discard 1 momentum. This attack gets +X damage, X equals its block modifier. So Spirit Sword, Cannon Blast, both would get +2 damage. Net Launcher would only get +1, but that's fine. If we need that extra +2 to carry through a game, it's there, or it's mainly just here to net us 1 momentum for, say, the Spirit Sword Ultimate's EX, or Net Launcher's Enhanced that spends 1 momentum to build in maybe another Defiant Stance, or Airy if we are expecting that our rival's going to go into their kill turn, and we want that extra get-out-of-death-free card. We have Kind-Hearted. This is a fun response. After you build this card, reveal the top card of your deck. You may discard 1 card, and if you do, draw 1 card. Now, in the initial build for this deck, I had put in copies of Final Test. The Genkai card that says as a form, we can flip it. If we have discarded a card this turn, we get to draw a card. However, after trimming it down from like 85 cards, I realized that I don't want to lean too heavily into the discard, but Kind-Hearted is still fun because we can first form, build it in, and then reveal the top card of our deck, and if it's an attack, we can discard a foundation to draw that attack. So that's a pretty good thing to do if we're just trying to draw through our deck a little bit more. Then we have Breaking the Cuffs. This is a fun card to use with Momo. You destroy it and discard 1 card. Our attack gets +3 speed and +3 damage. So this 7 mid for 11 is a 10 mid 14. 10 high 14. Starting out 7 high for 8 that can just kill people. And again, we can build it back in with Momo on our next turn if need be. But if we've checked one of our attacks, we can use Urameshi's Perseverance. As a form, we can remove this card and spend a momentum. Add any card in our discard pile to our hand. So this is how we pick up our attacks if we've checked them, and it's another use for that 1 momentum we can sneak with Borrowed Energy, or if just any of our attacks have poked and dealt damage. Defensively, we have Keiko's Aid. We response flip after we block an attack. Our rival's next attack gets +2 difficulty. We don't want to die, so being able to just say, hey, you have to add 1 more to your progressive difficulty for the turn. Your next attack gets +2 difficulty. Anything we can do for that is going to save us so that we can stall until we have our 1 or 2 or 3 attacks. We have Toughest Punkin Jr. High, response flip. Before we take damage from any attack, we can reduce that damage we take by 3. So this is when we take the damage, instead of like deflect before we take the damage, reduce the damage of the attack. This is, oh, I partial block and I would take 3. I'm going to take 0 instead. Perfect defense, something we can flip, blow up, and then build back in with Momo. We have Always Cool. This can, as a response, destroy itself after an attack is played. Its damage cannot be modified. This is a great way to stop big damage attacks like Armor of the Wolf and other bombs that would build their own damage up. This is a great thing to use against... what's the Godzilla attack? No, the Godzilla Foundation. Unmatched power? Unrivaled power? The one that removes itself to give you damage equal to your printed difficulty. That's going to be dealing a lot of damage, so being able to stop that with Always Cool, very good. And because it's a destroy, we can build it back in with Momo if we want to keep stalling with this. Or, as an enhance, we can add it to our card pool, build the top 2 cards of our deck face down. So it turns 1 foundation into 2 that we would use for Cannon Blast or Spirit Sword Ultimate. And then, of course, since we added it to our card pool from our stage, it would be sent to the discard pile at the end of the turn. Then we build it back in with Momo, after maybe committing one of those face-down foundations to build it in. And we can just keep on building up our resources. Hi, Sam. Building up our resources, building up our ammunition for our big bomb attacks. We have Return of the Kings. We can commit this to make our block modifier to block an attack get -2, making our block easier. And we can spend a momentum after we block with this card, we get to build it. So another use for the few momentum we might get. I've got a tricky what is a symbol in here. It's a once per turn enhance. Remove 2 foundations from your discard pile. This attack gets +2 or -2 damage. So it could be critical damage reduction in case we need to survive, or that last bit of damage to push our attack over the edge into lethal. We have Nice Try. We can commit it during our turn for any cost, or to play an attack or play a card, because during our rival's combat phase, after their combat phase begins, it gets to ready itself, and we can commit it on our rival's turn to give an attack -2 speed. So this is a great card in addition to Study Group Leader and Defiant Stance as a target for our commit costs. Or, if we check a 3 for some reason, the 12 3s we run in the deck, we can commit Nice Try to pass those checks because it'll ready during our rival's turn anyway. We have Broken Psyche. We can enhance, flip, spend 1 momentum, change this attack's damage to 2. So this is another good way to protect ourselves if we have momentum so that we don't die. And I don't think we're really running any 6 check attacks for that response. No, we got Moth Monster down here, but I think that might be it. I think Moth Monster is the only 6 check. Yeah. So we're not really using the response, it's more for the enhance. We have Kindle the Flames. As a response once per turn, after we block an attack, we get to ready this card. So we can commit it to pass the check to play a block, and then it readies itself so we can block again. So only a 1 of, because we kind of only need the 1 of, but it's more of just helping us survive those turns. We have Raiding the Villain Hideout. We can flip it to make sure that our checks to play blocks get +1 for the rest of the turn, making our checks making all of our blocks a little bit easier to play. That's always good. And as an enhance, we can discard 1 card. Our good attack gets +2 damage. So that's an additional 2 damage to help push our attacks into lethal threatening range. We have Contempt for Heroes, which is a foundation I hadn't given any thought of until my local player who had the Momo deck had this in his deck. But after we build it, we get to reveal the top card of our deck. If it's a foundation, we add it to our hand. So if we build it in with Momo as our first form, we can reveal the top card of our deck, and if it's a foundation, we get another card in our hand. That's really, really good. Or as a response, after our rival draws 1 or more cards during the combat phase due to their non-character effect, we get to draw a card. Drawing is everywhere, especially with cards like Curious About Quirks. So when they draw, we get to draw. So it helps not only tutor more cards to our hand, it helps us draw defensively as well. Then we have Sense of Justice. Enhance, commit, name a keyword. Our rival's attack gets -X speed or -X damage. X equals the number of attacks with that keyword in their card pool. Tribal decks, like Charge Tribal, Weapon Tribal, are everywhere. So this is a great way to either slow an attack down so we can completely block it, or if we can't completely block it, we can mitigate a good chunk of damage. We have Lost in Thought. This is a great way to get rid of target cards on our rival's stage that would hamper our attacks. Speed resets, damage resets, stuff like that. We can remove this, add 1 foundation from each player's stage to their hand, and then both players build 1 card from their hand face down. So it's kind of like a 2 for the spending 2 to remove 1, but again, it gets a defensive piece or maybe an offensive piece off the board, and we can pick up one of our face down foundations and maybe play a different foundation face down. Or if we've built an attack with something like Always Cool, or maybe we're going up against a younger Toguro, we can pick up our attack and play a foundation down and keep that attack in hand. We have Taiyaki Fanatic. As a response, we can destroy it. After our rival plays an enhance ability on an asset or foundation, cancel it. So again, this is for cards like Cape of No Return, or Knott's Flask, or any other card, that foundation or asset, that would mess with our attacks. This is a good way to protect our attacks, and since it is just a destroy, Momo can constantly build it back in as we need it. And it's got a cheeky bit of deadlock here. That deadlock enhance, we destroy it, our rival discards a card. So, great way to, as a first form, maybe build one of these in, then just as an enhance on our first attack, destroy it, our rival discards a card, and just clear cards out of their hand so they can't block. We have High Value Target, which is a good defensive ability that says when committing cards to pass the check to play a block, this card counts as 2. We like that. As a response, before one of our foundations would be destroyed by a rival effect, we can destroy this foundation instead. So if they're trying to destroy something like our Defiant Stance, our study group leader, we can actually protect it with High Value Target. Then we have Idle Work. We can destroy a foundation if this attack deals no damage, draw 1 card and discard a card. This again helps keep us out of deadlock. I was also running low on low blocks. So this keeps us out of deadlock, allows us to reuse our face down foundations, and gets us a little bit of draw and discard so we can cycle and try to get to our attacks quicker. Then we have Moth Monster. This is our only 6 check in the deck. We can commit it to give an attack -2 speed, but if we've taken damage this turn from a rival attack, we can give it -3 speed instead. So speed control plus the minus speed from Momo can make an attack really easy to block. And finally, the Shobijin's Message. As a response, we can flip it. After we play a block, it gets Breaker 2. So this is another really key defensive piece to flip, give our block Breaker 2, blow it up, and unfortunately we cannot build it back in with Momo because it has to be a non-unique foundation, but if we did have other ways to pick up our foundations, such as Urameshi Perseverance, we could. However, I don't see that being necessary if you can block and Breaker 2 at a key point. So maybe you would want to run 2 of these if you wanted to go for the more hyper defense. I could definitely see that. And then maybe put the Toughest Punk down to a 1 instead of a 2. Or even we can just get rid of the Borrowed Energy unless we think we might need more momentum. But definitely something you could do. And that is a very cute and fun Momo Yaoyorozu, and like I said, believe it or not, it works. On my 3rd turn, I threatened, I think it was like 32 damage with just a Net Launcher and a Spirit Sword Ultimate. And then the next game we played, I actually drew 4 attacks on turn 2. I was able to poke with a Net Launcher, and because when I went first, and on my 2nd turn was able to just play Net Launcher, check a 5, commit 3 foundations, and push 11 damage through. On my next turn, I was able to play another Net Launcher and a Spirit Sword Ultimate and end the game there. So the whole goal of the deck is survive until you can get probably Net Launcher, Spirit Sword Ultimates, the main 2 you want, and then kill with 2 attacks, using all of your cards that refresh themselves to further your damage and just swing for the fences. I think the most I had to do was a turn when I played 2 Cannon Blasts and a Net Launcher on like turn 6. I played Net Launcher, Cannon Blast, and was able to win the game there. Because if you check a 5 on the first Net Launcher, You commit 3 foundations, hopefully 2 of them will ready up, and you just keep going. And it's just really fun. You shouldn't be checking too many 3s because you're only running 12 of them. So, yeah, it's really fun. Another card you could play, what is the Good, Evil, All Foundation? Advice for winners. After you check a printed 3 to play in a card, you can recheck. That could be something you could play a 1 of. Just so if you did check an attack on an attack, you could check again instead. So, yeah. This is a very fun, just sit and wait deck that just absolutely bombs your rival out of nowhere. Because again, if they check poorly and they have to commit half their board going in, a single net launcher can just open the floodgates and force your rival to take 11, 20 damage in 1 turn, depending on what you follow it up with. But yeah, that is this probably bad ideas, good times Momo 3. I'm mainly putting it in the bad ideas, good times because it's probably a bad idea to run only 12 attacks in a 66 card deck, 65 card deck, but it works. And for the right pilot who just wants to build up and sit there and spirit bomb someone, could be fun. But yeah, let me know what you think of the deck below. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. The channel has grown quite a bit in the last couple of months. I'm very shocked, and thank you very much for all of your guys' support. And just let me know what you think, and if you think of any characters that maybe you want to see built, maybe you're a newer player who has a character they want to play but they don't know where to start, drop it in the comments, and I'll see what I can do. Until next time, take care, guys.